nothing there, and it stops.
Mm.
So I'm like, huh. And he's like, what is it? I'm like, I don't know. There's nothing there. So I walk back and it starts happening again.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay. So this time I walk all the way out to the field to right where we can, the other side of the street, and there's nothing there. There's nothing, nowhere anything could have hidden. And I'm like, all right, there's nothing here. And I go back and he's like, how can there be nothing there? It starts doing it again.
Mm-hmm.
Our third friend didn't see the tree shaking. And he's freaking out, and we're assuming he's freaking out because the tree's shaking. And then finally he's like, what are you guys talking about? The tree isn't moving.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just kind of looked at it, and then they both really wanted to leave. So we left. I went back up by myself after this, and something very large was moving through the tops of the trees and making a ton of noise, knocking stuff down. Never saw anything, and it was should have been plainly visible. I could see the branches moving. Um, but like when I take that experience, I never attached anything to it. You know, I didn't say, oh, this was a spirit or whatever. Someone said, well, it was an invisible Bigfoot. I mean, maybe it was. I have no idea what it was. And because I've never attached anything to it, it hasn't limited my ability to kind of like compare it to other experiences.
Yeah.
Because I'm not narrowing it down to saying, oh, that was the ghost of someone from that potter's field, or it was a Bigfoot,
Right.
or it was this, or
Right.
it was that. It was like, no, this was the experience. That's what I had. I'm not labeling it, because by labeling it, you limit it.
Mm.
I saw a giant UFO over Cayuga Lake. And when I say that, I mean that in the strictest sense of it was an unidentified flying object. It was enormous. It had a ton of lights on it. I couldn't see if there was an actual structure there because the lights were so bright. So it
Mm.
looked like a structure because the lights stayed relative to one another, but and then it slowly descended down into the lake. But at no time can I definitively say, oh, I saw a structure. All I saw were lights. So I would never say, oh, it was a spacecraft. I can say what it wasn't. It wasn't a helicopter. It wasn't a plane. It wasn't a toy.
Mm.
Drones were not really a thing back then. That was around 2001.
Yeah.
At best, it could have been a very, very large military drone. And I only know how big it is because it descended into the lake, which would have made it very, very big because I was a distance away from the lake and I could see it go behind the trees and down. I never actually saw it enter the lake. But I was also very careful about every observation of it. I'm like, okay, there's no sound, but I'm also not getting an Oz effect. Like I didn't feel weird. There was no
Right.
missing time. It was just lights. I saw lights. They dropped down toward the lake and disappeared.
Interesting. I like the way that you think in that you are not labeling it exclusively. And I think that it would be really healthy for people to adopt that type of mindset because that way you're not giving anyone or anything to really feed off of.
Right,
And
right.
yeah, and you're being a lot more intellectually accurate and honest in
Yeah.
my opinion. And I think that that's vital when looking at these things. So kudos to you.
Yeah, there's a story Tim Renner has about a Bigfoot sighting. And he
Hmm.
asked the guy, Chris, you were there. Maybe you remember the details. Like he asked the guy something like if other weird stuff had happened, and he said he had a ghost.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. He had a ghost.
And the ghost
Um,
was basically looked like Bigfoot.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's like, I have a ghost. It's like almost 7 feet tall, and it's like I think he was like a lumberjack or something like that. He's like real hairy. It just yeah, he was describing this ghost, and he's like, that sounds exactly like a Bigfoot.
But he was taking them as two
Yeah,
separate things because
it's
to
two
him one of
separate
them
things. Yeah.
one was a ghost and one was a Bigfoot encounter.
Yeah.
One of the examples I like to use, I mean, lights play such a big part of all this stuff.
Yeah.
And people will see a light in a house and, well, that's a ghost. You see a light in the sky, well, that's a spaceship. You see a light in the woods and it's either Bigfoot or the Fae or whatever. But it's like, nope, you saw a light. Let's just stop
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
stop adding on to it, you know?
I do think
Yeah.
that light is a type of life in itself, to be
Yes.
honest. I do
Hmm.
think
That's the
that a lot of
plasma idea.
huh?
Mm.
Plasma.
Yes. Okay.
Plasma intelligences.
Yeah, yeah, and I do think that that is more of the raw, you could say like quantum energy, subtle energy body that a lot of people come here incarnate with. So that's more my theory on it. Though of course I could be wrong. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just emitted energy from what's really at the core of that. I don't know. It's just been my experience that that's more of the body form that other people take when they do incarnate here. So I don't know. I think there's
Yeah.
something to it.
That's not, I mean, it's not it's not a new theory either. Like the idea of other beings that exist that have these, that do not have corporeal bodies but are made of light, are made
Yeah.
of fire,
Smokeless fire.
smokeless fire as the jinn,
Yeah.
angels as of light. And it's there's very, I think it's another one of those things that, as we were talking about earlier, that maybe the exact specificity of it and the way that it's told through myths and spiritual practices, maybe that isn't something, sort of something that changes, but like the idea, the mouth feel, the flavor of it is correct. And it at least aligns with something that we're still experiencing now.
Yeah, like I said, it's cross culture throughout time. It's just not always labeled the same thing.
Yeah.
Like the experience, if nothing else, is a human experience. But to deny that people have these experiences is ridiculous. It's intellectually dishonest.
I
Right.
agree. Whoops. There we go. Sorry if I disappeared for a second. I have to go grab my charger real quick.
Okay.
I will be
Sure.
right back, my friends, but please do feel free, most welcome to chat.
Yeah.
Mm.
Did you have a show, like a band come up
When today?
over? No. This past weekend, who'd you have?
This past week
No,
watch
no.
Survivor Series.
Oh, right. Of course. For some reason, I thought you had somebody. I thought I saw something the brief time that I went on Instagram or something. I thought you had a band up there.
I put
Yeah,
up. I mean, I aired 2 of the live performances from the last couple
that
months
must have
on the
been it.
show. That must have been what you saw.
That must have been it. Yeah, of course. It was Survivor Series.
Yeah. So Saturday Survivor Series. Sunday we painted the kitchen red.
Right. Nice. How do you feel about CM Punk's return?
I hate CM Punk.
Do you hate CM Punk?
I have always hated CM Punk since I first saw him in ROH.
Yeah.
And it's like
yeah.
I feel like his returns are always awesome, and that's the only part I like.
That's the only part. It's like a multi-year deal he has that I think that
yeah.
yeah.
Let's see if it lasts.
Right. That's exactly.
But they're they were doing a good job of acting like Seth Rollins and stuff were all pissed off that he was there, and then it's like, oh, they knew he was coming out. Okay, it's all kayfabed. Okay, that's what I figured.
Yeah. You go to get your charger, Tillie. Sorry, we start talking about professional wrestling. It happens.
Oh no, please. I was curious actually as to who you were talking about.
Yeah. Survivor Series was this past weekend.
I go to a friend's to watch it, not partially just to hang out with him because I don't see him too often.
Yeah, I was a big wrestling was a big part of my childhood growing up. Like this like cool friend of mine, who's sort of like an older brother that I had growing up. He was the guy that like introduced me to metal and professional wrestling, and he took me to my first concert in the 80s, which was what did he take me to see? I think he took me to see Guns N' Roses on Appetite for Destruction tour, which
that was a good tour.
Oh wow.
Yeah, if it makes anybody, that's
I saw them with Aerosmith on that tour.
Yeah.
Wasn't a big Aerosmith fan, but it was a big Guns N' Roses fan at that point. And man, that was a crazy show.
Yeah.
What was so crazy about it?
The crowd. The crowd was absolutely nuts for Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
Good for them. That's awesome.
Yep.
And then I hated them after that.
Yep.
Oh, why?
Because I didn't think the stuff they followed it up with was any good, and I got really sick of hearing the first record.
Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. I
Did
could
get
see
kind of
that.
overplayed.
Uh,
But yeah, and I've been into wrestling all my life, or most of my life.
did you guys ever think that the wrestling was real?
When I first watched it, I think my parents told me it wasn't, but I had my doubts back and forth depending on what I was watching.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was asking because when I was in high school, there was a large group of teenage boys who swore that it was real. And it just looked really fake to
Well,
me, so I was confused.
my thing about that, I mean, it is probably one of the more real things on television when you think
Sadly.
about it, because like movies aren't real. Not only are they not
Right.
real, but they're heavily CGI'd. You can get multiple takes in your acting. You got
Yeah.
stuntmen, etc. The news certainly isn't real. Reality shows aren't real. I mean, wrestling is one of the only things that goes out there live where the people are actually doing the things that they're doing. And yeah, sometimes it looks really bad, and sometimes it's amazing.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. I think the only wrestler I really know was Triple H.
Who now runs the WWE?
Yep.
Doesn't Oh wow.
Yeah.
All right, good for him.
Yes, good for everyone, actually.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay, so I'm ready to get back
Yeah.
to the paranormal chat if you guys want, or we can just chat about random wrestling and TV. I'm cool with whatever. I think this is fun. It's a total blast. I just whatever you guys want.
We can go back to the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Would one of you gentlemen care to take the lead?
Well, you were talking about electronics and stuff, and that's something I dealt with a lot. Um, when my Kundalini woke up, I started affecting electronics, and the the story everyone seems to like, which is the one that I I don't know. There are things that happen where I go, that cannot have been me. But at the same time,
Hmm.
part of me goes, no, that was probably me.
Yeah.
1 week, was it even a weekend? I think it was a weekday. It actually took place over a few days. I thought it all happened in the same day. But I was super electric. I mean, I would touch something that was plastic and get a shock off of it. And it was a ridiculous amount of electricity I was generating. And there was nothing overly stressful going on at the time. That's the thing. It wasn't necessarily related directly to anything. Um, and I went to see a friend of mine who worked at a radio station, a college radio station, and knowing how I was, how everything was reacting to me, I said to him, I'm like, you like to shake hands, and I'm like, don't touch me. I'm like, just trust me, don't. And he gave me a weird look, but he's like, okay, whatever. And at some point, he went to move past me and just barely brushed up against me, and it sounded like a gunshot went off,
Oh
and it
wow.
threw him across the room. And I turned around. It didn't even phase me. And I turned around. He's sitting on the floor against the far wall with this look of shock on his face. And he's like, what the hell was that? I'm like, why I told you not to touch me. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea. And I leave. And as I walk into the hallway, all the lights are going out as I'm walking past them. And I'm going, this is great. Okay. Then I think it was the next day I go to another friend's radio station who works at a commercial station. And
Mhm.
he did a metal show on the weekends. And I walked in and I said, you get anything cool this week? And he's like, ooh, Metallica's Binge and Purge. And I hate Metallica. And he knew that. So he was kind of saying it sarcastically. And I'm like, cool, too bad Metallica suck. And just as I said it, I grabbed the rail that held all the CD players and stuff in it. And it felt like grabbing a live outlet. And then all the power went out. And I was like jokingly going, I'm sorry, I guess Metallica don't suck. Um and I was like, I felt that when I grabbed it. And I'm like, I'm sure it'll come
Yeah.
back in a minute. And the power didn't come back on the rest of the night. And we went out into the street and the entire block was black. And it's like, okay, so the power's out all the way down. Okay. And the creepy thing is there was a phone ringing and all the phones were powered. So none of them should have been working because it was a business, they had multiple lines and everything. And we're sitting there waiting for the power to come back on, and we can just hear this faint ringing. And we're like, what is that? And so we go into one of the offices and we're tracing the sound because it's very faint. And for some reason, there's a standard phone plugged into an outlet under the desk, buried under stuff. And so he finally finds it. He's like, it's this. And it just kept ringing. And he answered it, and there was just static. And we were like, he's like, okay, I think I'm good. I'm going home.
I love that.
And I said to him, I'm like, because he was also the news guy, I said, see if you can find out what caused the power outage. And he's like, all right. And so the next day or so, I'm talking to him, like, did you find out about the power outage? He goes, yeah. He's like, they said they'd never seen anything like it. There was a power surge from our end of the street that blew out one of the transformers.
Oh, wow.
And I went, totally was not me. Totally was not me. But after that, all the shocking everything stopped. I mean, I still affected electronics, but on a normal level that I was used to, not this like hyper blowing things up level.
So did you ever discover a way to kind of tame that down?
Yes, to a degree. It still acts up here and there unpredictably. But doing meditation and stuff and just doing shadow work in general helped a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
writing the autobiography has been a lot of shadow work as well.
Yeah.
I can only imagine facing your whole past.
Well, I kept a written record from the end of 1990 on.
Okay.
There's a few years because the thing is, it was when I was really seriously starting to practice magic. And I said, okay, I don't believe in this stuff. But I was very distinctly told to keep a record, but to keep a record of everything.
Mhm.
And so I did. I kept a record of what was going on in my daily life, almost not so much daily. I'd take notes and then I'd compile it into a journal entry eventually. So I have pretty clear, uh, like I'm going through it and there's all this stuff I don't remember. Never would have remembered in a million years if I hadn't written it down. But it's also showing me, oh, when, first of all, shifts would happen at certain times where everything would change. Uh, Paranormal stuff was usually grouped together. There was a lot of things through there that it was just like, oh, okay. Or have to deal with something that I had forgotten, but I'm like, oh, this is kind of why I feel this way about this thing. Okay. And sometimes I had to stop and just wait a few days and just kind of process it.
Yeah.
And none of
Yeah.
it was really horrific, but some of it was definitely annoying, or I was just like, oh man, now I'm stressed out after reading about that and remembering about that. But in the end, I think it was a more healthy thing to do. Um, After so many things came together at a certain point, I stopped keeping a daily record, and I really regret that.
Mhm.
And then I started up a loose record after like 2001, and still at this point, I try to keep at least daily notes so I can record dreams and anything weird that happened, and just general stuff for the day, so that because sometimes that comes in handy. It's like, oh, when did that happen? And I can just look at my notes and be like, oh, there it is. Okay. When did the car start making that weird noise? Oh, it was this day.
Yeah, that can be immensely helpful. And Chris, I was curious, did you ever have any type of experiences with Kundalini awakenings or anything similar to what Soraya is talking about?
Yeah, so I did have a one specific Kundalini experience that was very, very intense, probably the most intense and visceral experience that I've had, though I've had, probably more subtle experiences in my life. But yeah, I had essentially, the you felt the ball of electricity right at the bottom of the spine, and it went up through my spine and blew out the top of my head, and I uh my consciousness shot up, and I was looking at myself from outside for just a moment, and then I came back, and that was it. But it was um very visceral. There was a continuity of consciousness, and yeah, it was interesting for sure.
So did you feel less dense, less physical while you were having that experience, or did you not notice, or what was
No, I mean, that wasn't something that I noticed.
oh,
Because it took me by surprise. And it wasn't something that I noticed. It was very quick. Um, but yeah, I didn't feel any particular change in, like, I guess it wasn't long enough for me to really explore the sensory aspect of it. No.
oh, okay, that makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
I've never had any Kundalini experiences to my knowledge.
Sure.
And
And the only reason I use Kundalini is simply because it seems like it's the most appropriate explanation for it. Maybe there is another phrase for it, but yeah, it seemed very, very Kundalini like. I'm sorry. So go ahead, Tilly. You were saying.
oh, I was just saying I haven't had that, but I've had some similar
Yeah.
experiences with electronics glitching out, and then when I get too upset or too emotional, things
Yeah.
electronically can go wrong or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
really it. And I don't tend to get upset very often. So
Yeah.
they're very rare, and they've gotten less and less as I've gotten older and aged like a very fine wine. So
Right. Right.
maybe my Kundalini days are long gone. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I still don't know the reason for it. I mean, as far as like everything that I've come across in my sort of research on it is that it's something which is just like a natural part of our life and evolution, and that there are things you can do to sort of spur it on, which isn't necessarily a good idea, but otherwise it's like it is, you know, yeah, it's just a part of going through, this world, and that it is something that happens to some people.
For sure.
Everyone has Kundalini. It's just normally asleep.
Yeah.
The people that I've dealt with who have Kundalini experiences almost always have massive trauma in their past. I
Yeah.
don't. So I
Yeah.
don't know why mine woke up when it did. But it completely changed the course of my life. So, I mean, maybe that's why. But
Yeah.
everyone I have helped with it, they have had, I mean, just serious amounts of trauma.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I don't have trauma either, and for me, it that experience very much aligns, particularly as I look back with 2020 hindsight, at a very distinct pivot moment in my life. And in fact, I think, if I had done different things, I would have gone in a very different direction, and in fact was probably a point that I came back to focusing more on mystical or esoteric side of my life.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, we have Christmas coming up, and we're talking about all of these different types of energy and experiences and whatnot. Uh, do you guys believe in Santa Claus in any way, shape, or form?
I don't believe in Christmas.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I believe that Santa Claus uh is Odin, and perhaps the wild man, and the Lord of the Hunt, and maybe Bigfoot. That maybe it's all the same thing. Yeah.
Interesting. So why Bigfoot exactly? Why
Well,
is
so
he included
Bigfoot,
in that?
so for Bigfoot, and this is very much a Joshua Cutchin thing, though I don't know if he's specifically done this, is that you kind of have to trace it back, like the wild man, or the figure of the wild man, has always been, in mythology, and a lot of times it is, associated with sort of the all father figure, so the Wotan, Odin, or Hern the hunter. So these sort of like, green, forest chthonic sort of entities. And if you make that sort of like the wild man, if you're thinking that the wild man archetype in these gods is something that has seeped down, that perhaps the wild man that we see now has something to do with that, the wild man being the Bigfoot or the Sasquatch. But I think it's more interesting if you look at it sort of backwards and you see that the older, or like the more you go back in history, the less wild the wild men are. So if you look at like old woodcuts of wild men of the woods, they don't look fully like gorilla like as people attribute Bigfoot or Sasquatch these days. They're much more like grizzled old sorcerer type look. So there's an interesting sort of what would be the, I guess, correspondence between them. I guess I'm not literally saying Bigfoot is Santa Claus, but I think that you can make that correspondence in an interesting way. I definitely think Santa Claus is Odin, though. Yeah. And I was trying to no, sorry, go ahead.
Which one of us?
Oh, either one.
I don't think
we talked over each other.
I think I just agreed with you. That's all.
Yeah. I was just going to say I was recently just as an aside trying to explain to my daughter, because she was asking me where Christmas came from, and I was trying to explain like the various different the various different influences, at least in my understanding of it. So you've got the more recent Coca-Cola Santa Claus influence, you've got the Father Christmas, and then you've got the Christian influence, but then you got Saturnalia, so there's a lot in there.
Yeah, there really is. So Seriah, do you call bunk on people who say modern day that they've had experiences with figures like Santa Claus and Krampus, things like that? What do you think about those Christmas figures? Do you think they're real in any way, shape, or form?
I think they're as real as anything else if they've had those experiences. I mean, there are people who have seen literal like Bugs Bunny show up.
Yeah.
I think I had if I'm remembering right, I had a story someone sent me where they turned around and they saw what looked like the Scooby-Doo gang following them. I mean, so I think it's just our brain doesn't always know how to process this stuff, so it puts an image there, and it finds the one it thinks either best fits it or the one that protects us the best from freaking out about the fact that it doesn't know what it is.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, for me, at the risk of sounding like George Tsoukalos, tulpas or aliens, I do kind of wonder if some of these people really are seeing something that is legitimately physically there for the moment, and whether it's some type of trickster element, or maybe a guardian angel taking that form temporarily, or maybe it's a tulpa or something completely different. I keep coming across all of these modern day Santa Claus encounters, allegedly, and I don't quite know what to make of them. So I was curious as to what you guys would think, because we're in that season now, and these experiences are not going away. And it's maybe like the Bugs Bunny thing. Maybe it's one of the most fascinating things that I've run into all year, to be honest.
I don't doubt people's experiences most of the time, especially when they're really weird. Like, someone's not going to tell you they saw a literal Santa Claus if they're trying to fake an experience. I mean, you kind of like, someone will have a very high strangeness experience and they'll tell you about it, and you can tell they're kind of hesitant, and they're like, I probably imagined it or whatever, versus the person who's making up a story which goes exactly where your average horror movie would.
Yeah.
That they're necessarily making it up, because it could also happen like that, but like, the weirder the story, the more likely and more hesitant someone is to tell it, the more likely I'm like, okay, so you at least believe you saw this. Like, and that's not to say that they didn't see something. It's just that we don't see exactly what's there ever. So yeah, tulpas could be an explanation. I mean, our brains do plenty to offer explanations for why we may see some of this weird stuff.
Mhm.
Because it's really, our brains are just a filter. And most
Yeah,
of the time it's filtering out the stuff that it doesn't think is important for its survival.
true. There was one story I came across earlier this month where a woman claimed that she saw Santa in his sleigh with the reindeer flying over top of her house, and that the next morning she found and photographed apparently the sled sliding tracks along with the deer
Footprints.
deer hooves and whatnot. Yeah, but I find that really fascinating. But
Yeah.
traditionally, Santa brings presents. So what did he bring her? I didn't get to find out, if anything. But I want to know if it really did happen, what was he or it or she or they doing there?
Yeah.
What was the purpose of that visit? And the fact that there seems to be physical evidence just boggles my mind. So,
Well,
yeah.
that for some reason that brings to mind the devil's hoof prints from England, which are
Yeah.
a series of hoof prints in a
Yeah.
single line that went on for miles, up walls, over roofs, everything, um, that have never been explained because it was a single hoof print.
That's right.
Dang. What do you think, Chris?
I mean, I think that uh so I don't know if this is just another possibility for what these things could be, but I do think that there is something to be considered about the idea of, for lack of a better term, a control system. And I only use that because Jacques Vallée uses that. But you could think of it as an ecosystem, the natural, I guess, the forces that help regulate reality. And I don't think that it's too hard a stretch to look at our physical world, the one that most people experience, and see how these systems work, and then think, well, maybe these are working on a much larger and hidden, way. And so I do think that there are things that happen, whether or not it's conscious beings that are part of a spiritual hierarchy, or it is, unconscious forces that are part of like a Gaian intelligence or whatever it might be. I do think that there are certain things that appear and push people in ways that maybe they need to go as part of uh you know some equation that we're not consciously aware of right now, or at least I'm not. And so, I think sometimes it might be something like that. That's why I always kind of lead with the question when somebody tells me about an experience, and I think a lot. I'm not the first person who did this. Is this to say, well, how, what impact did it have on you? Like, what happened after
Yeah.
it? What did it make? What did it spur on in you that then ended up, causing changes in your life? And that might not, for some people, maybe they just saw Santa Claus, in which case I'm not sure. I don't know. But if there is, something, if there was some sort of impact from it, then I think it might be part of whatever that thing is that we just don't understand, that is part of our unknown natural reality.
Mhm. Very good. I agree with you a lot on that. And I too think that a lot of non-human people interact with human people in order to forward certain storylines or to provide certain opportunities. So for myself, even human people or beyond, I don't see anyone as so-called good or evil or anything like that. I just see personally everything and everyone as being some type of, you could say, fairy godmother or guardian angel, quote unquote, just in the way that they're providing opportunities to learn and to choose a new adventure, to choose a new storyline. And I kind of notice that a lot of these stories, the so-called angels and sometimes the fairies and whatnot, are said to appear at a pivotal moment in a human person's life, and that changes the course of that human person's life. So I wonder, maybe some of these experiences with Santa Claus or whatever, maybe that's what it is. Or maybe it's just some type of um, gathered energy that coalesces into this thought form type of thing in order to
Mm-hmm.
forward that storyline. Or maybe it's just random chance. I don't really know.
Right.
It's just so interesting to think about, especially because
Yeah.
the legend of Santa has been around for ages in one form or another.
Sure.
And the progression of that story from like Odin or the wild man to the Coca-Cola drinking Santa Claus just fascinates me.
It's pretty interesting. I mean, these archetypes, I think, are you know, and not just in a Jungian sense, but beyond that, are really fascinating.
I
I also,
agree.
there's a comment Jeffrey Kripal once made that said something like, "The paranormal happens for a reason in people's lives."
Mm-hmm.
And and he was referring particularly to the why lab work was so hard to do. You know, like
Yeah.
why it was so hard to prove this stuff under laboratory conditions. And his point was, you know, this stuff affects us. It changes us. It's happening for a reason. It's not just random chance or something you can easily measure.
Right.
I agree. I agree. And maybe again, maybe I'm crazy. I always leave room for that. However, in all of my experiences with fairies or other spirits, guardians of the forest, and so-called demons and angels in my old paranormal investigating days, they all had it in common that they don't take orders. They hate being told what to do, which I completely empathize with that. And they do not like human lab measurements because from what they had told me, it is completely inorganic to the storylines that are being played out. So why should they
Mm-hmm.
appear there? Just to be
Mm-hmm.
dissected in a way that's not philosophically relevant to what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
This is what I was told, as I believe anyways. And again, I might be nuts. Please don't listen to me. I'm just some blonde chick sitting in front of a Christmas tree yapping with some friends. That's all. So I don't know.
I often feel like I'm just a part of like a piece on a chessboard that's moved different places for different reasons, and I don't always know what those reasons are.
Right.
Like sometimes it's like, oh, okay. And other times I'm like, what was that about? Why? Um, there was like one I thought about after the fact that it had happened. I had neither of my cars have Bluetooth in them. One's really old. Um, and I just have a speaker for that one, Bluetooth speaker, because somehow that car has survived since 2002, and it was not in the greatest shape when I got it, and it's still holding on. But most of the electronics don't work in it, including the stereo, because it was the flood we got flooded with a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a Bluetooth speaker for it. The other one I got a couple of years, like maybe last year or something, because I got a really good deal on it, and it is the year before they included Bluetooth on the car. So I have a FM transmitter to use, so I can use my phone, listen to podcasts and stuff like that from my phone, which works great. And one day I went to, I don't know if I've gone to a concert or whatever, and I get in the car and the Bluetooth transmitter doesn't work. And I take it out and I put it in, and it's not lighting up. I'm like, great. Well, I'll just go grab the speaker from the other car. So I grabbed the Bluetooth speaker, and this is a much smaller car, and on the other one I have just a piece of Velcro I can put the speaker attached to, and this one has a little thing that opens up on the dashboard. And I'm like, I'll just put it in there, and so I toss it in there, and it's working fine. I'm like, okay, this is good. I'll get a another transmitter later. And then I realize it's blocking my dash cam, and I'm like, well, this will be the time that something stupid happens.
Mhm.
So as I'm getting to the store, to a Walmart, one I don't particularly like, I wasn't going to stop at. I was going to stop at a different one that's a much better Walmart. But I'm like, I better stop now and grab the transmitter and so on and so forth. So I go in, I get the transmitter, I come out, I wait in line, get done, walk over to the register. As I get to the register, there is a chunk of cash hanging out of the register, the self checkout. And I'm like, oh crap. And the woman had just walked away. So I pushed my cart in front of the money, and I ran after her. And I mean, I'm a big guy. I'm dressed in black. I probably had satanic symbols on me. And, I'm running up behind this woman. And I'm like, I don't want to startle her. And so I kind of like ran halfway around her, and I'm going, hey, hey, hey. And she's like, looks at me. She's like, yeah. And I'm like, you left your money in the register. And she's like, oh my God. And it was a good amount of money. And she went back there. She's like calling me an angel and all this other stuff. I'm like, okay, there's some irony there, but that's cool. And so she takes her money, and I get out to the car, put the new transmitter in, everything works. When I get home that night, I'm like, hang on. Is the other transmitter going to work? I take the new one out, put the old one in. It works just fine. I'm like,
Yeah,
you just
yeah.
wanted me to give that woman her money.
Yeah.
Seriah, I'm working right now on an hour-long special about angels and what angels can be potentially. Your story would be perfect. Do you mind if I use that in my
Of
special?
course not. You can use it.
Awesome. Thank you.
But like, I feel like I was literally just maneuvered into that place. And I'm the type of
Sure.
person who's not going to go, oh, look, cool, money. I'm the
Yeah.
person who's going to go, whose money is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And two, you could have been gently nudged there in order to present to her that so-called satanic energy. I'm sorry, satanic symbolism, to help her maybe broaden her mind a little
Right,
bit too.
right.
There is so much that could have come from just that one experience. And I believe that angels come in all forms, all colors, shapes, sizes, and symbology, creeds. So
Scary, scary metal guy just helped me, by giving me the extra money I needed.
yeah, I think that demons can be angels as well. So I think it's perfect. Absolutely perfect.
But yeah, there have been numerous times in my life where I've been very, very precisely positioned, and then nothing seemed to come of it. And I'm like, all right, what was that about?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
like why was I positioned for that? Like, who got anything out of that?
Yeah. And I think too that just because we can't see all of the outcomes of whatever interactions we have, it doesn't make it any less important. And
No,
I think
All right. That's
I
true.
just
I
like to get some idea,
yeah, absolutely. And I think that you will when you go home, truth be
Sure,
told.
sure.
That's
But
my
I want to know now.
You want to know now, always, of course.
Like that one was like, okay, maybe, I don't know, maybe the woman was short on money. Maybe that was the money for her bills later in the, who knows? It doesn't matter. I mean, I got her the money back, and it was like I said, it was a decent wad of cash that she forgot. So that one's kind of obvious,
Yeah.
but then there's ones like I spent, there was an incident I've never talked about, that I'm not going to get into too much, where I was told to find somebody, and this went on. This whole thing took a year, almost to the day, before it finally resolved itself. And as soon as I found this person, like, it just kind of like ended. And I was
Hmm.
like, what was so urgent that I needed to find this person only to have this not go anywhere?
Yeah.
Hmm. Who knows? Who knows? But I often wonder what human society would be like if everyone intended to be everyone else's angels. Like
Well,
what if that is the
Right.
secret to human ascension, you know?
Mhm.
it would definitely be a better
Yeah.
world.
It absolutely would.
I mean, I honestly would like to think that anyone in that position would have also ran and got at that woman, but I realize, unfortunately, that's not necessarily the case.
Right.
Right, right. I think that everything that ever could or would or can exist does exist. So I think that in many, many other timelines, you didn't make it there in time, or you
Right,
chose not to go, or, there was someone else who came
Yeah.
along and took that money, or she didn't forget it at all. So to
right.
me, it's a small miracle that you got that opportunity consciously to experience it, being her angel. And I think that's a beautiful gift from like the universe or God, whomever or whatever, or your higher self. Yeah.
But yeah, I've had numerous things like that. And like I said, it just feels like being maneuvered like a chess piece. And it's like I can't see the whole board.
For
Mhm.
So
sure. How do you feel about it?
it depends on the day and the event.
You don't you don't like all surprises, huh?
I like I'd like to have a little bit of information here and there. Like I said,
Yeah,
that one was great because that made sense to me. Yes, you know, all of
Yeah.
that. As like when I got home and went, I'll bet you that thing works. And I was just supposed to stop and give her the money, and I put it in and it worked. I'm like, oh, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. What about
But
you, Chris? Have you gotten any opportunities like that to be manipulated into being someone's angel?
I mean, not that I can think of, but I can only hope that I do have some at some point.
Oh,
I teach I'm a film professor, so hopefully I impact people through that.
encourage them to make magical films. Absolutely.
Right.
As far as the Christmas creepies and crawlies and stuff, we've also got Krampus. What do you guys think about Krampus? Do you think he's real?
well, as real as anything else, I suppose.
Ah, fair enough. All right.
Yeah,
He's
I mean, sure. Yeah, exactly.
definitely the
Yeah,
more metal version of Santa Claus.
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
for real.
He's a pretty cool mythical figure, and I think a good to have a balance. You get the evil guy and then
I'm
Father
generally
Christmas.
pretty anti-holiday in general, so
Yeah.
So I should not send you a Christmas card. Got it. But Krampus for me, he is actually one of my major Mandela effects or retcons, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't pop up in my life timelines until about 10 years ago. And back then I was still studying all this stuff. I was fascinated and whatnot. I would have heard of it. I mean, it's a pretty popular figure and whatnot, at least today. So when he started coming up more and more, and then I discovered Krampusnacht and whatnot, I was shocked. I was really, truly shocked. And now I'm finding lots and lots of accounts of people running into him or what seems to be him, and lots of people saying that they've encountered goat men in general. So part of me wonders if it's not also a physical type of incarnation here.
well, Chris, you know the whole Constantine thing much better than I do. I mean, that seems like it's kind of on the same level, more or less.
Right. I mean, yeah, like what Seriah is referring to is there are a number of comic book like writers, Alan Moore and Grant Morrison are two that come to mind. And one of them, Alan Moore, who created the character Constantine, he ended up like seeing, or both of these guys, they basically saw their characters from their comic books, from their writing in real life, and had very like distinct, like it wasn't just somebody who looked like them, it was them, like they made eye contact and like got a wink from the character. So yeah, like that line between the fiction or a fictional character and a whatever term you want to use, tulpa or egregore, or
Yeah.
simply existing, because imagination is just as real as reality. So yeah, I think that's for Krampus. I don't know. I mean, I don't know much about the history of Krampus, but beyond it, that like if it's existing in the world of the imaginary, then it exists, in some way, shape, or form.
Fair, I think. I wonder if it's not, though, at least some type of wild forest humanoid
Oh,
physically.
right. I mean, well, there is like the fawn, the satyr. That is a form that
Mhm.
that has been around for a while, and I mean, that's usually sort of where I go in the as looking at things from a historical perspective gives me some sort of sense of I guess not truth, but there is some continuity to it, at
Yeah.
least something that has been happening more than once. And so there is something, yeah, certainly could be. I mean, I have no, yeah, I don't I imagine that there could be numerous things out there. So I guess I've always had, I guess, less of an interest in cryptids and things of that nature because of, I just accept that, things exist. So for me,
Yeah.
that part of the mystery is not as I guess it's not as interesting to me, even though I think it's part of the same sort of,
Mhm.
larger
Spectrum.
sphere.
I think that's fair. Well, thank you for humoring me, both of you, nonetheless, and
No,
letting me pick your
sure.
brains. Well, I think that I have plenty of information from this show tonight. If you guys would like to continue to chat with me, absolutely most welcome. But I think that I'm going to call the show there because
Okay.
I wanted to try to keep it at around an hour to an hour and a half, and we are well over that, and that's good.
Sounds
So that's
good.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My dog keeps on nibbling at my heel, which probably means he wants me to take him out. So that is good.
cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. What about you, Soraya? Are you happy with how everything went?
Yes,
Would you
yes,
say it's half
absolutely.
one?
Oh yeah, no, I'm very happy with our conversation. No,
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
just saying it's probably a good time to stop since my dogs are bothering me. Which is what happens when I leave them in the room here with me. Yeah. That was a great
absolutely.
conversation. I was really happy to be able to talk about all those things with you.
Awesome, awesome. I loved it too. I think you guys rock, and I'm so happy to be here with both of you. I wanted to ask you, since tonight went so well, apparently for all three of us, would you boys humor me by coming back on rotation with me?
Of course.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, that would be absolutely wonderful. Would it be okay if I pull up my calendar real quick for us?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, so December, I would like to, if possible, get you on for just a Christmas party type chat. Whatever happens, happens. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, I guess. Like I said, I'm
Yeah.
anti-holiday, but that could make it fun.
Exactly, exactly. There was an old BBC series. It was Grumpy. It was like Grumpy Old Men at Christmas or something. That's what you remind me of. But it was funny. They were roasting the hell out of Christmas and traditions and people at that time, and the attitude is welcome here, Soraya, if that's the take
I'm
you'd like to have on it.
I'm
That's
very
funny.
anti-structure and anti-tradition, so
Yeah.
Okay. But that could still be really fun and unique to talk about, and I would love to hear more about that because I'm the opposite. I love Christmas. I love the holidays. I love parties, celebrating fun, color. I mean, that might be a little bit clear. So to have people
That's
who are
good.
my foil in a lot of ways, I find that really fun and
Good.
fascinating. Um, so I have Kutch coming on December 13th. I have another person on the 7th, another person on the 1st. Um, who do I have? I think the 6th, I have another one. But outside of that, just the 21st and the 28th are taken right now, and I'm trying to get my rotational people in. Whatever dates you want, you two are free to choose for December. So what sounds good to you outside of the ones that I was listing off?
I don't know. I mean, anything that's not Monday, Friday, or Saturday is generally good.
Okay, not
Yeah.
Monday, Friday, or Saturday.
Actually, even Mondays this month are mostly okay. Um, yeah, my schedule's so weird that it's just kind of like pick a date and I'll see if it's open.
Yeah, I'm kind of slammed for the next week or so. If we did
Okay.
something the week, just because I'm finishing up the semester and I've got like finals, my students have finals and stuff. So the week of the 11th, I could do I could do either the 11th or the 12th.
The 11th.
What's that?
I can't do the 11th.
Okay, yeah, I could do the 11th, the 12th. To do, or then The next week after that, I can't do the 19th, but I'm basically free starting on the 20th.
Okay.
Um,
Soraya, love, are you good for the 20th?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, just 20th. Great.
Sounds good to me. Let me type that in.
Same time.
As long as you guys are cool with it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
good.
Let me see. And I'm going to mark it down here. Chris and Soraya, 9 p.m. anti-Christmas party.
Ah,
All good.
cool.
Okay. Um, and Chris, at some point, I'd like to have you on if you'd like, just you and I, and Soraya, same for you, just you and I, because
Sure.
I'd love to hear more about each of your individual life experiences and to promote each of you individually within my kind of like behind the scenes circle, if you'd like. If not,
Yeah,
perfectly.
I'd be happy to. That'd be great. Yeah.
So maybe later on we could schedule that, but I know you guys have heavy schedules and my December is about to be slammed.
Yeah. We
But
can do that. We got plenty of time. Yeah. After I get off on the 20th, I'm basically off until the end of January. So because I have the luxury of being a professor and having that schedule. So with plenty of time.
sweet. Okay. So maybe for January and February I can have each like one of you guys on as well as the two of you together and kind of spread it out a little bit. Sound good?
Yeah,
Sounds
absolutely.
good.
You
Yeah.
should talk to
Awesome.
You should talk to Saxon at some point too.
Yeah. Saxon Williams.
Super Inframan on my
Super
show.
Inframan. Yeah.
Cool.
He's
He's
great.
A lot of times Chris and he are my go-to guys if I'm like, I need a show. I'll just bring on Chris and Saxon because we'll find something to talk about.
Oh,
Saxon's
cool.
great.
Would you mind facilitating an introduction for me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I'm shocked at how many people really have been wanting to talk to me and sit down with me, and it's been wonderful. And now I'm starting to book into January, and I'd love to find new people to bring on because some of them are returning, some of them are brand new, but I'm always looking
Right.
for new, you know. Oh, if you guys are into the Fortean stuff, like of course it seems you are, I'm going to be having the singular Fortean society leader, I think that's his title,
Oh,
um, Tobias Wayland, I believe his
Tobias
name is.
Wayland. Yeah,
Yeah, he's coming on with me soon to discuss
cool.
his brand new Christmas themed book coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have a PDF of that, read it, review it, make it a feature for December. And
Cool.
if you guys aren't familiar with him, maybe that would be a good connection for you guys too, because he seems to have a lot of interesting stuff to say.
I do know Tobias. He was actually at the
Yeah.
he was a speaker at the conference that Soraya and I we were virtual speakers at, but he's in that sort of the circle of these guys. I don't know if you ever heard the show Conspiranormal, but this is
No.
some friends of ours, Adam and Surfiel, Josh Cutchin and Tim Renner know them. They're our part of they're based in Nashville, but yeah, they know Tobias and you do
Gotcha.
probably too, Soraya.
Yeah, I've never talked to him, but I know who he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, well then I have no connection to offer you guys, but I tried
No, well,
anyway.
thank you though. That was yeah, that's sweet of you. No, he's got some cool stuff. That's a Christmas book. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
I'm really excited for that. It's been a while since I've read a good 14 style Christmas tome.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, my friends. I think I'm all set. My husband is trying to get my attention from out there, so it's time for me to head off.
All
Yeah.
right,
I should
just
go. I'm still getting that.
throw
Yeah,
up
it was great.
throw up a link to the show or something when you post it or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes. And I wanted to offer, would you guys like me to send you the finished show as a what do you call it, video file so that you can have it and put it wherever you want as well?
If you're putting it on YouTube, right?
I am, but I always offer to
Yeah.
provide the finished show file to my guests so that they can also post
No,
it wherever.
Yeah, I
I'm
can also
okay
just
to
grab it from YouTube, is what I'm saying.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You did say that you had something to do that with.
And I will grab that other one for you that you're having problems with.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Although, wait, Jimmy did message me saying that he got it and he sent me a link. So I do think I have it
Oh,
now.
Oh, good.
All right.
Nice.
If not, though, Seriah, I will absolutely let you know. And I appreciate you so much for offering to do that for me.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah. But yes, so Chris, do you want the video file or no? Or
No, I'm okay. I have nothing to promote it on, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
welcome, Seriah. Then I'll just send it to you
Yeah.
if you
Okay.
want that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, my
Great.
friend.
Well, yeah, it was terrific to talk to you again, Tillie, and we'll talk again soon.
Yeah.
We have something lined up, so at least we will talk then.
Yes, and if you would like me to come back onto where did the road go, Seriah, please let me know, and I'll be more than happy to make room. I'd still love to meet your roommate as well.
I was going to say, I really want to have you on a show with Natalie because every time we
Yeah,
talk,
that'd
I'm
be
like,
cool.
oh, Natalie would have so much to say about this right now.
Yeah. Got to get Natalie back.
So.
Is she home yet?
Oh yeah, yeah. She's just. I didn't ask her about coming on the show yet. I told her I wanted her to do a show with you.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Do you think that you could set that up for sometime in December, maybe?
Maybe. I'll talk to her.
Please do. I'm so curious. I would love that so much.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
Nice.
Cool. All right, guys, I will let you go before I get into a spot of trouble over here. But
All right. Take care, Tillie. I'll talk to you soon.
All
All
right.
right. Bye,
yes,
Seriah. I'll talk to you soon too.
All right. Later.
good night.